Hello, everyone. This is Dr. Roger Paul, and tonight we're going to continue our studies of paper 49, The Inhabited Worlds, and this is a continuation of our connection with the UFO stuff. We're going to keep doing this until we get through at least this paper. And then we've decided tonight among the group, we discussed it before we started recording, that we're going to go from here. Instead of going back to 16 right away, we're going to go through paper 47, which is the 7 mansion worlds, and 48, which is the Urantia life. And this kind of connects to this paper. So we're going to go there after we get done with this paper. We're going to start with the 7 mansion worlds, and it gives us a jumping off point from when we die, what kind of life we have after that. And it kind of takes us into the next dimension in essence, you know, and that we've talked about that a lot with this alien stuff. So okay, so here we go. We're going to go back, get back on this paper. Diane, would you take that first paragraph for us here?
Life on the worlds of the non-breathers is radically different from what it is on Urantia. The non-breathers do not eat food or drink water, as do the Urantia races. The reactions of the nervous system, the heat-regulating mechanisms, and the metabolism of these specialized peoples are radically different from such functions of Urantia mortals. Almost every act of living, aside from reproduction, differs, and even the methods of procreation are somewhat different.
Okay, so the non-breathers are different from us in the fact that they don't eat food and they don't drink water, right? And we're going to find out in the next couple paragraphs, we've got a planet like this very close to us. All right. And what's interesting about the non-breathers is the way they regulate heat, and their metabolism is totally different from ours too. So I guess not having an atmosphere changes everything, even their way of reproducing, their reproductive system. But being all that's different, they still have a spiritual life and a mental life just like we do. All right. Yeah, it is amazing. Rodney, would you take the next one up for us, please?
Yes. On the non-breathing worlds, the animal species are radically unlike those found on the atmospheric planets. The non-breathing plan of life varies from the technique of existence on an atmospheric world. Even in survival, their peoples differ, being candidates for spirit fusion. Nevertheless, these beings enjoy life and carry forward the activities of the realm with the same relative trials and joys that are experienced by the mortals living on atmospheric worlds. In mind and character, the non-breathers do not differ from other mortal types.
Okay, now there's something I need to mention here in this paragraph, and that is the fact that these people are candidates for spirit fusion instead of adjuster fusion. So what does that mean to them? That means over 90% of them stay in our local universe. They don't do the ascension plan. Okay, if they're spirit fused, they fuse with a fragment of the sun. Okay, so the spirit fused beings don't normally go all the way to paradise. Now they can get to a certain level where they do, but something about them being non-breathing entities when they awaken on the mansion worlds, apparently that carries over, that type of existence and the technique of existence as relate to an atmospheric world is different. So that's why they become spirit fused mortals. Okay, but that being that they're spirit fused mortals, it changes their destination. Okay, and that's important to understand. Now, spirit fused mortals can eventually go through the ascension plan just like we do, but they don't normally readily do that. Okay, why that is, I am not sure. Okay, but they mention that in the book. I just wanted to bring that up. So most of the spirit fused mortals, once they're spirit fused, stay in the local universe and they become permanent citizens of the local universe. And the universe, the heavenly people beings feel that that is fair because all local universes need some beings steadily here and always here in this local universe. So these type beings don't normally go outside the local universe. When they get to a certain level, they just stay in this local universe and serve in this local universe. Okay. And that's an important difference. Other than that, they go through the same experience as we do. All right. And this is a very interesting next paragraph. Gary, would you read it for us, please?
Me?
Yeah.
Thank you. You would be more than interested in the planetary conduct of this type of mortal because such a race of beings inhabits a sphere in close proximity to Urantia.
Question: do you think this might be the beings that crashed in Roswell? It is possible, you know. They don't mention anything in the tapes about whether these beings that they got could breathe or not, did they? Right? Although they had what? They had two holes for where their nose is. So it would seem like they would have some kind of respiration. But it's interesting that they point out that these types of beings are in close proximity to our planet. So that means they could probably travel here fairly easily if they're more advanced than we are, right? All right, just something to think about. Okay, evolutionary will creatures. Jane, would you take the first paragraph on that? Unmute, Jane.
There are great differences between the mortals of the different worlds, even among those belonging to the same intellectual and physical types. But all mortals of will, dignity, are erect animals and bipeds.
Bipeds. In other words, all the mortals of the realms stand erect. They don't walk on all fours.
No.
And they all walk on two legs, right? But it doesn't say anything about them having only two arms, does it? Or two hands?
No, just 2 feet.
Just 2 feet. That's right. Two legs. All right. Ed, would you take the next one, please?
Certainly. There are 6 basic evolutionary races, 3 primary, red, yellow, and blue, and 3 secondary, orange, green, and indigo. Most inhabited worlds have all of these races, but many of the 3-brained planets harbor only the 3 primary types. Some local systems also have only these 3 races.
So a lot of these planets only have the red, yellow, and blue, right? All right. So, and you can look at that chart of the universe chart, and it breaks all these down and all the variations of this, right? And then on our planet, once they get these planets get Adam and Eve, or a son and daughter, right, from the universe, then they'll have what's called the violet race, and that mixes in with these red, yellow, and blue. Now, interesting point about this is this: no matter what color they have, eventually they all melt into one pot, into one color, okay? So over time, these different races, both the red, yellow, and the blue, all start to mix together, and eventually they'll get all the races end up having just one color, okay? And that's usually something along the shade of a light brown, okay? So that's just for y'all's information. So all the race stuff we see going on in the world today, eventually this will all go away because everybody will intermarry to the point where there won't be any different races eventually in time. You know, it'll take hundreds of thousands of years, but that will happen. You can count on that. It talks about that in the book. All right. Bill, would you take the next one?
Okay. Which one are we? Six,
The
sixth
average,
base?
huh?
The average
Yeah.
special?
Yeah.
Yeah. The average special physical sense endowment of human beings is 12. Though the special senses of the three brain mortals are extended slightly beyond those of the 1 and 2 brain types. They can see and hear considerably more than the Urantia races.
So the three brain types of beings can hear better and can see wider than we can. Now, in those races, they may be able to actually see the midwayers, right? They may also be able to see the Urantia beings because they got extended vision. All right, so that would be important if you lived on one of those planets. All right.
I got a question. The
Oh,
average
same here.
special,
Yeah,
Excuse
go
me.
ahead, Gary.
the average special physical sense endowment of human beings is 12. What
Right.
senses are those?
Exactly.
You know, guys, I can't name them off the top of my head. And I did not know we had 12 different senses until I started reading this book. Okay. And for the life of me, I can't figure out what those 12 senses are because I've looked at this before.
Well, I mean, it comes along with maturity.
Yeah, it does. But if you think about it, you can start counting them down, right? We got sight, hearing, smell, taste, right? All right. Think of the other senses. What other senses you have? Feel, right? You can touch and feel things. You can, now some people have extra senses, like sensory, help me out, dear.
Perception.
Perception.
ESP.
Yes. ESP, right? They
Well,
also
there's also one, and I'm sure everyone's sensed it in their own life, when there's danger.
when there's
You can
danger.
sense danger.
That's right, you can. And you can also, with some people, they can foretell what's going to happen in the future to a slight rate. Okay. Now they can't foretell exact things, but they can sense these things are about to happen. Okay. And that has something to do with the adjuster. Okay. The foresight of the adjuster. And some people can remember the past better than others, right? So I guess depending on your brain function, but even if you add those, you don't come up with 12. Think about that. So I don't know that they really list them out in the book anywhere. I never have been able to find it. If I have, I didn't pay any attention to it.
Well, it'd be interesting to know if we have all 12 available to us on this world.
Well, we may not,
Well, I don't think so.
Yeah. It may be talking about partially, some of them are the senses of the three brain series, right? And we're going to go backwards too. The single brain series of beings may not have as many as we do. You see what I'm saying? So, Jane, go ahead.
I seem to remember reading that, what you just said.
Yeah. Jane.
Roger, we have talked about the adjutant
Mind spirits.
mind spirit.
The 7 adjutant mind spirits. Right.
Could it be conceivable? We have 5 senses, and then there are the 7 adjutant qualities. Could it be if we acquire 1 or 7 of them, would we then be would they add to our senses some unique?
Well, Jane, you may have hit it on the head. Right on the head is it may be our normal 5 and the 7 adjutants on top of that.
That's what came to me as you were talking.
Yeah, you may be hitting it right on the head. I don't know, to be sure.
I don't know.
Yeah, I can't tell you for sure, but that makes perfect sense, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, if you think about it.
The 5 common ones are the ordinary physical
senses
to the body,
Yeah.
and the other 7 are sort of spiritual.
They are. And I'll take you one more than that, Bill. Think of Adam and Eve being able to communicate telepathically. That would be a separate census too, right? And there
Yeah.
are people on this planet that have that ability to telepathically communicate. Now, why some people have it and why some don't, I don't know, you know.
Mhm.
But I can tell you, I've studied, you know, I was a doctor for 20 years. I studied the brain in every shape, form, and fashion. Diane knows I've got a model of the brain here. I've had real human skulls. I can tell you every hole in the skull. You know, I've had to learn all that being a doctor for years and years, but there's still mysteries, you know, no matter how much you learn, you can't know everything. And I know my wife thinks I know everything sometimes, but she has to straighten me out on that every now and then. You know? Right. So that's just the way we are, right? Okay, let's move on. Let's see who's up next. Jane, did you just read?
Yes, I did.
Okay, Ed, would you take the next one?
Ed read.
Oh, Ed read. Bill, you're next then. Did you just read too, Bill?
Yeah, I just read about the
Okay, Diane, you're up then.
12.
Y'all keep doing this, I'll have to read. Go ahead and take the next one, dear.
Unmute.
Oh, there you go. Okay. All right.
Young.
Young are usually born singly, multiple births being the exception, and the family life is fairly uniform on all types of planets. Sex equality prevails on all advanced worlds. Male and female are equal in mind, endowment, and spiritual status. We do not regard a planet as having emerged from barbarianism so long as one sex seeks to tyrannize over the other. This feature of creature experience is always greatly improved after the arrival of a material son and daughter.
Okay, so do y'all think we have emerged from barbarianism?
Not yet.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Yes.
Just recently.
Yeah. Just today, right?
And
I
just
think
for
we've been
1 hour.
evolving, huh?
All right. Let's keep going here. Rodney, would you take the next one?
Yes. Seasons and temperature variations occur on all sunlighted and sun-heated planets. Agriculture is universal on all atmospheric worlds. Tilling the soil is the one pursuit that is common to the advancing races of such planets.
All right,
Of
two
all such
things.
planets.
Yeah, two things. The previous paragraph, it says this feature of creature experience is always greatly improved after the arrival of material sons and daughters, right?
Mhm.
So after Adam and Eve, we're supposed to get to the point where we become more sexually equal, right? Males and females becoming equal. Well, the next paragraph talks about tilling the soil, right? And agriculture. And what do you think Adam and Eve was supposed to teach us?
Tilling the
Agriculture.
soil.
That's right, agriculture. How to replace hunting and that sort of thing with agriculture, okay? Animal husbandry, okay? And that was part of the stuff that Adam and Eve was supposed to teach us that we didn't get enough of, right? All right.
Now that's what they were trying to teach to the mortals back in the Dalmatia.
They tried that too. That's right,
Mhm.
Bill. They did.
Because they'd had ministries of agriculture there.
That's
If I
right.
remember correctly.
Trying to teach the barbarians how to grow stuff, right?
Right, right.
All right. Gary, would you take the next one?
Okay. Oops. Okay, mortals all have the same general struggles with microscopic foes in their early days, such as you now experience on Urantia, though perhaps not so extensive. The length of life varies on the different planets from 25 years on the primitive worlds to nearly 500 on the more advanced and older spheres.
Boy, 25 years doesn't seem very long, does it?
No.
Okay.
Nope.
No.
Some
Um,
some mortals,
uh,
that's all they have, you know.
No, the Bible, though, teaches that people lived for, 800 and 900 years back then.
Yeah, but that was the descendants of the Calagassa 100, Bill. Remember
Okay.
the Nodites, and
Mhm.
so they still had part of the leftover stuff from being encircuited, and so they would live for long periods of time. But once it went generation to generation, that slowed down quite a bit. Also, they mentioned in the Urantia book, their way of recording years was way off base, if you think about it. So, and they discussed that too. So the way they figured out years would have been like equivalent of about 70 years in our time, is what they figured out. So some of them really didn't live that long. Now, some of them, like Amandon, who was attached to Van, he lived 150,000 years, remember? Because of why? He was encircuited when he got the life plasm. When he donated the life plasm, he was encircuited into the circuit, and he stayed with Van, so he had access to what? The tree of life. So he regenerated over and over and over again, right? So,
I
but
have a
500
question,
years
though.
is still a long time on any planet, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
I have a question.
yeah,
It mentioned in the previous paragraph about seasons.
right.
Okay. Now we get our seasons from the tilt of the axis.
Right.
Okay, and that means that all the planets have tilted axes.
Well, they have some kind of revolution on an axis for sure, Now, whether it's tilted or not, I can't tell you, but that I'm sure that affects their season depending on which planet it is and what they're going around. Now, remember, some of the planets actually revolve around larger planets, right? And their moons around larger planets. So their seasons would be different because of the way that the larger planet goes around the sun, right? So their seasons might be totally different because their actual revolution would be according to the larger planet. So, their fall may end up being 6 years and their summer 7 years, who knows,
Yeah,
So
that's another thing I was thinking about was, if particularly if a moon, and you had one sun local system, and you are living on a moon around a large planet. That's
mhm.
going to take a long time for that moon to get out of the shade of the larger sphere.
Planet. That's true. Not only that, Bill, but the larger planet is going to be going around the sun too. So you got the rotation of the larger planet, and then you have the axial rotation of the moon around that. So the position of that being close to the sun or not is going to change also. So you may have a temperature variation that's radical. You think about it.
Yeah.
If you think about it once, the rotation, if the moon's inhabited on these planets,
Yeah.
the rotation around the major planet would be a day.
Yeah.
Whatever rotation that is. It may take 4 days, it may take 3 hours, who knows,
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And the rotation of the major body around the sun or whatever heat source would be, I would say, contributing to the seasons.
Yeah. You would think so, wouldn't you?
and they may have, instead of being rotating like us with out of whack, they may be perfectly spherical, and it's just maybe the distance of the orbit around the heat source that changes from winter to summer and vice versa.
Yeah, Gary, and you brought up a point. It could be the rotation around the major planet too, could be equal around that major planet, equal with the distance of the sun constantly. So you could have 6 planets going around that bigger planet that's always the same distance to the sun. So there's, that could be seasonal. It could still be seasonal, but, and yet the temperature difference would be not that great, right?
It'd be like living on the equator.
That's right, living on the equator. That's right. So there's a lot of variations that comes into this, right? All right, so let's see. Jane, I think you're up next. Human beings are.
Okay. Human beings are all gregarious, both tribal and racial. These group segregations are inherent in their origin and constitution. Such tendencies can be modified only by advancing civilization and by gradual spiritualization. The social, economic, and governmental problems of the inhabited worlds vary in accordance with the age of the planets and the degree to which they have been influenced by the successive sojourns of the divine sons.
Okay, did y'all catch this? As we become more spiritualized, right? It advances our civilization. Did you see that?
Mhm.
So by becoming more spiritualized, we advance ourselves both as tribes, as groups, and as races, all at the same time. Okay, so the differences become less and less. Can you see that? The differences between the tribes, the differences between the race, the differences between how we react to things because we're more spiritualized, right? We become less barbaric, basically, is what they're saying. All right. Ed, would you take the next one?
Certainly. Mind is the bestowal of the infinite spirit and functions quite the same in diverse environments. The mind of mortals is akin, regardless of certain structural and chemical differences, which characterize the physical nature of the will creatures of the local systems. Regardless of personal or physical planetary differences, the mental life of all these various orders of mortals is very similar, and their immediate careers after death are very much alike.
So even though we're very different as mortals, when we get to the dimension worlds, it becomes much more alike, doesn't it? Okay, so there's less differences. All right, we may all start out with the same forms, what they're talking about, right? All right, Bill, would you take the next one, please?
Sure. But mortal mind without immortal spirit cannot survive. The mind of man is mortal. Only the bestowed spirit is immortal. Survival is dependent on spiritualization by the ministry of the adjuster, on the birth and evolution of the immortal soul. At least, there must not have developed an antagonism toward the adjuster's mission of effecting the spiritual transformation of the material mind.
So, saying that, what do you think happens when you rebel against God your whole life?
You reject the
You're
adjuster.
rejecting the adjuster.
You're rejecting it. That's totally correct. And what does that do? It stops the evolution of your immortal soul. And you need your immortal soul to continue on in the mansion worlds. Make sense?
Yeah.
Mhm.
So you can
Right.
see why Jesus said, when he told the apostles, let's go out and save some souls, didn't he? Okay.
Mhm.
He meant just that. He meant that by transforming people into more spiritual beings, they were helping to develop their soul. And by helping to develop their soul, it gives them more of a chance to survive and go to the mansion worlds, right? Because
Mhm.
without the soul, there's nothing to wake up on the mansion worlds, right?
Correct.
That's why I
Um,
think it's important we go that next step, when we get through this paper, go on to the mansion worlds, right?
yeah, and that's like rejecting the will of the Father. I mean, he always
It
said
is.
that
Yeah,
that we have to want to do the will of our Father.
that's right. We do. And it's a conscious decision. We have to make that conscious decision. We want to do the will of God, right? In our
That's right.
lives. That's right. Okay. The planetary series of mortals. Bill, would you take the next one, please?
Well, I just read, but
Oh, you just read. I'm going to
yeah.
make Bill read all night tonight. Diane, would you take the next one, please?
5. The planetary series of mortals. It will be somewhat difficult to make an adequate portrayal of the planetary series of mortals because you know so little about them and because there are so many variations. Mortal creatures may, however, be studied from numerous viewpoints, among which are the following. 1. Adjustment to planetary environment. 2. Brain type series. 3. Spirit reception series. 4. Planetary mortal epics. 5. Creature kinship serials. 6. Adjuster fusion series. 7. Techniques of terrestrial escape. What does that one
Okay.
mean?
Huh?
What does that one mean? Techniques of terrestrial escape.
I'm going to tell you in a minute.
Okay.
Yeah. Go ahead and mute again, dear. See, we don't reverberate here. Okay. So this is the different things that makes us vary from planet to planet, right? And vary from mortal existence into the first mansion world. Okay. And that's why they say it's somewhat difficult to make adequate portrayal of the planetary series of mortals, because it's these things. All right, let's just run down through these real quick because they're going to talk about each one of these. Adjustments to planetary environment. What are they talking about there? Well, this is whether they're air breathing, not air breathing, whether water creatures, whether they're air creatures, whether they're land creatures, that sort of thing, right? Then we have brain type series, whether you're a 1 brain, a 2 brain, or a 3 brain type being, right? Spirit reception series. These are whether the beings you're talking about have adjusters or don't have adjusters and are set up for spirit fusion, okay? Then we have planetary mortal epics. It depends on what epic each of these mortals come from, whether they were Dalmatia type beings, whether they're post Dalmatia type beings, whether they're pre Adam and Eve or post Adam and Eve, or whether they're a pre sun creator sons, the creator sons, or the magisterial sons, or the Trinity teacher sons, what epic these people are born in, because their spiritual life is going to be much different and by which epic they were raised in, right? And then they have the creature kinship serials, right? Series. And this is whether these creatures had brothers and sisters, whether they were in tribes, whether in barbaric tribes, or whether they were in tribes that were much more advanced, which race they were in, which color they were in, those sort of things, right? And then you have the adjuster fusion series. And this is real important because if they're adjuster fusion capable, they're totally different than if they're spirit fusion capable, okay? And then the technique of terrestrial escape. This is really, really important, okay? Because some worlds, when they become more advanced and closer to light and life, they have the capability of fusing before they die, okay? And if they fuse before they die, then they can escape from the planet through a gesture fusion and go directly to the capital of the local universe.
Chariots
That's-
of fire.
Chariots of fire. You got it, right? If not, they have to die. They have to be transported by the guardian angels to the first mansion world, right? That's the techniques of terrestrial escape. All right. Any questions?
So those
about
would be advanced worlds.
those will be more advanced worlds. But remember, we've had 2 known cases of that on this planet already, right? We had Elijah who fused with his adjuster and he escaped the planet without dying. We also have Enoch who fused with his adjuster and left the
Who?
world without dying, right?
Who was the last one?
Enoch,
Okay, Enoch.
yeah. Mhm.
Enoch.
Enoch,
Enoch.
Okay.
all right. And those are characters we know from the Bible, right? All right. Enoch was a son of Adam, right? And Elijah was on down a little bit further.
And that's just 2 that we're aware of.
That's the 2 that we're aware of. You know, it's kind of funny because occasionally you will hear a story about someone who has spontaneously erupted in fire and disappeared. Have you heard stories
Yeah.
about that?
Yeah.
Yeah. I was about
That's
to
what
say that.
happened. That's what happens when you fuse. So that good chance those people fuse too. Now, how do you get to that point? That's the big question, right? So that you fuse and escape the planet. Well, you become spiritual. You become in tune with your thought adjuster. When your thoughts is God's thoughts and God's thoughts is your thoughts, you're at that point where you're ready to fuse, right? And that's a hard point to get to in life. All right. Happens more often when you're on a more spiritually advanced planet. Why would that be? Y'all think about this. Because if you're surrounded with spiritual teachings and spirituality 24 hours a day, you're much more likely to be in tune with whom? God the Father, right? Think of it that way, right? It's a goal. It's a goal for life, really. Okay.
Oh, I have a question.
Yeah.
On one of the previous paragraphs, we read that this depends upon the status of the Son, divine Son.
Right.
Would Caligastia have been considered a divine son?
Yes. He would have been considered a divine son because
Okay,
he was created by Creator Son for the role that he had. Had he not rebelled, he would be, they call him planetary prince. He would be the ruler of the planet, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right.
So then in that case, we have had 4 divine sons, Caligastia, Adam and Eve, Melchizedek,
right,
and Jesus.
Right. Jesus, I would not consider, he's a divine son, but he is not only a divine son, he's the son, right? He's also the father at the same time, right?
Right.
He's kind of in a category by himself. You know, he's not just the son, he's the father and the son of the son, right? So
Yeah, but you got to remember, Jesus runs the universe, and I think the other ones are earthly, except for maybe Caligastia.
well, no, Caligastia wouldn't be earthly, and Melchizedek wouldn't be. Melchizedek is of a higher order. He's of a local universe order, but he would not be considered mortal, right?
No, he materialized.
Yeah. Now, Adam and Eve, those are material sons, right? Adam and Eve's are all material sons. They're, in essence, except they were born on a different planet, on a higher plane a little bit, they're just like me and you, right? Because they're the material order of existence. So you could consider Adam and Eve more of brothers and sisters like this from an alien planet, really, like we are, when it comes right down to it. The difference is what? they don't die. Why don't they die? Because they're encircuited in the local universe circuit. Okay. So it makes them on a higher level, but they're still physical beings just like we are. If they weren't, they wouldn't have defaulted, right? That's just all there is to it.
A question.
Yeah.
If Adam and Eve had not fallen and become mortal,
Yeah.
when Jesus came, would they have been still alive then?
Yes, they would have been. Yeah, they would have been alive all the way up till Jesus came, and probably after that, really, because they would have stayed with the planet until the planet reached light and life. Okay.
Okay.
So as long as there was a tree of life to support them, they would have always been alive, basically. So, and if you think about it, Adam and Eve, this is an important point too. Adam and Eve did not rebel, right? They didn't. They defaulted. There's a big difference. They were judged and found not to be guilty of rebellion. That's a big point, right? They defaulted in their mission, but they did not rebel against God and the universe.
That is a point. Yes.
That's a big point, right? So they made a mistake, right? Just like we make mistakes all the time.
But Christianity tells us that Adam rebelled against God.
But he didn't.
But he didn't.
No. He didn't consciously rebel against anybody, right?
And then we have that same geneticism to rebel through Adam. That's according to the way Christianity thinks about us.
Yeah, but that's not true. That would mean there was a fall of man, right?
Right.
And we know that there was no fall of man.
That's right.
Period. Right? There was a rebellion, and many people follow Caligastia and Satan into rebellion. That's a big difference. If you don't rebel against God, you don't go to judgment for rebelling against God. If you do things wrong, you have to repent for your wrongdoing, but that's not rebellion, right?
No.
Big difference.
Well, the rebellion, Revelation, the seven-headed dragon of Revelation is the combination of the three rebellious ones that were in this system: Lucifer, Satan, and Caligastia.
Yeah. That's why they had their symbol as a dragon. Remember, Bill?
The symbol as a dragon.
Yeah, the symbol of the dragon was
the seven heads represent the seven different combinations of the three individuals.
Right.
I have a question, Roger.
Yeah.
The Adam and Eve epoch, how it affected what followed, mankind. Could we then say it was a fault, a mistake, that they misjudged, whatever? Could that have then consequently retarded our progress?
Yes.
Did it retard our progress?
It retarded our progress. It did. And many of the things that we would have benefited from, like the getting rid of the problems of disease and insects and things like that should have been worked out during the times of Adam and Eve. Plus the fact that there were many things we did not learn properly, like family relations, how to raise a family, that sort of thing, how to grow crops properly, they're just thing after thing after thing that Adam and Eve should have taught us that they didn't get the opportunity to because they defaulted before it was done, right?
Well, could blame. So on a lighter note, we could say we're only retarded because of them.
Well, in a sense, yeah. It
Well,
gives us an excuse. It gives us an excuse, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It's a combination, though, of not only Adam and Eve's default, but Caligastia's betrayal.
That's true. That's true too. But think of this. they teach us that because of the default and the things that we learned from the default and the rebellion, multiply the good that's happened on this planet many-fold more than the default did. Okay, now what am I saying there? In other words, we benefited even more from the default because we learned how to do things wrong, right? So it gives us the opportunity to learn how to do things right, right? So instead of using that as an excuse, we should use it as a jumping off point to improve our lives, right?
Well, that's why they call us agendantus.
That's right. That's, it comes back to believing without seeing, right?
That's right.
That's it. It gives us such a great opportunity. Well, it's about 10 after 7. Do y'all want to stop here and we'll take it up next time from here? Yeah.
Yep.
That sound good? All right.
Sounds good to me.
And we'll
Sounds
talk
all right.
about this terrestrial escape a lot next time. So, all right. Let's see. Let's have a little prayer and we'll quit for tonight. Let's see who would like to pray for us. Ed, would you like to pray for us tonight?
Certainly.
Okay.
Lord Most High, thank you for the gathering of the group, the influx of ideas, the transfer of knowledge. Thank you for your help in the direction that we take. In your infinite wisdom, we thank you for all. Amen.
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 And thank you at home for joining us. Please
you.
come see us again.
Thank you too.
And we shall.